prediction, because that's actually really important to us. Um, Prediction for the ban list. Now it's gonna be released any day here. We don't know exactly when, because all they let you know is that it should be no earlier than April. So we're gonna start off with what we think should get banned. So what should just flat out get banned.
Well, one thing that might get banned that I don't think should get banned is Astrograph Sorcerer. Pendulum Magicians, as everybody knows, is one of the biggest, takes up the biggest chunk of the competitive meta. It's one of the things that's been consistently meta for a while. So it might get hit. It's been hit already, but I don't feel that Astrograph should get banned just because Pendulum Magicians is a great deck. It's probably the best deck right now. But it's only that good because of Astrograph Sorcerer. Without Astrograph Sorcerer, you're not going to be able to do as many things as you can. Like, the deck will not... I don't feel they would be consistently as good. On the topic of Pendulum Magicians, Lurlusk Independent Nightingale. The card that makes the FTK possible for Pendulum Magicians. Some people argue for hitting Electromite or hitting Supreme King Starving Venom, which is ridiculous because a lot of other decks use those cards, but they don't run it the same way that Pendulum Magicians does.
What is everybody's opinion about that? Should you allow in Yu-Gi-Oh an FTK? I don't think a lot of people are posing that question. They have their opinions, on what the general consensus may or may not be. But, I would like to hear from the people themselves and see, if anybody watches this video, that's my question to you guys. Should FTKs be allowed?
On the subject of FTKs, though, the Gem Knight FTK, and the one that makes that one possible is Lady Lapis Lazuli.
Yeah, Lazuli.
Again, that's not one of the decks that's been topping a lot in things like YCS and in other big events. So a lot of people argue that maybe it shouldn't get hit, but then that goes into the question, whether FTK should even be allowed, because the Gem Knight deck isn't a deck that can play like Pendulum Magicians. Pendulum Magicians, you don't have to run the FTK to win. You can play your standard deck and you will win.
Yeah.
The FTK just gets you there a lot faster. The Gem Knights cannot be a competitive deck without the FTK. So that's what the question poses. Like, do you ban their FTK and kill the deck, or do you allow FTKs and leave around the mediocre deck that hasn't really topped any major events?
Yeah, are some FTKs better than others?
Yeah.
Are all FTKs created equal? That's, I guess another question. Are all FTKs created equal?
Masterpiece. So I think it should be limited, but it'll probably get banned just because the deck is the second best deck right now. And what also might get hit is Dragonic Diagram, the field spell for True Dracos. So I think those two might get banned because they might hit True Dracos, because it is the second best deck out right now, and it is doing really well, and a lot of people are complaining about that. I think they should limit it. Limit Masterpiece, limit Diagram, limit Astrograph.
I would say semi-limit Diagram, just because other decks don't have other options that are good, to replace what it does for them. So I don't think Diagram should be even limited. I think it should be semi-limited, just because other decks use it. It's a versatile card.
That's true. I do agree with that. One thing I also wanted to talk about is like what should definitely be limited to one. One of the things that I definitely think should be limited, and I know a lot of people around the shop definitely think should be limited, is Ultimate Conductor Tyranno to 1.
Yeah.
A lot of people around here dislike that card a lot. They got hit before and they're coming back, and they're back
with a vengeance.
Yeah. Especially with things like Overtext Quatless, which can search double evolution pill, and double evolution pill gives you Tyranno. The deck is so powerful. I don't think you should be able to run more than one Ultimate Conductor. I think 1 is the right number because you're still gonna he's still searchable. You're still gonna get him on the field.
Trickstar Reincarnation.
Reincarnation, yeah. I feel like it should be limited. I feel like the card does a lot. The card does do too much at 3. Heavy Metal Foes Electromite, limited. I feel like limited to 1 is fine. I run Pendulum Magicians and I love playing that card. It helps me out so much. It does so many things. The card is broken. The card does so much in any deck, but you can't. A lot of people think that it should be banned, but you can't ban that because it doesn't just work with Pendulum Magicians. It runs with any Pendulum deck. Yeah. I think limiting it to 1, not banning it, just limiting it to 1, I think would be great. It would check Pendulum Magicians. It would allow room for other decks to come up, like Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes is a very good deck, but with decks like Pendulum Magicians, they can set up to 5 negates and 5 interruptions on turn 1. There's really not much decks like Blue Eyes can do against that.
Yeah.
Limiting Electrum to 1 would pull the reins back a lot, and Astrograph at 1. It would still be a great deck, but it would allow space for other decks to start competing as well in big events. Darkworm. Supreme King Dragon Darkworm. Pendulum Magicians also abuse this card for the FTK and just in general because it's a free special summon. You activate either Foolish Burial or Dragon Shrine, ditch it to the graveyard, special summon it, and then search for a Supreme King Gate monster. Now you have a Pendulum Scale and a monster on the field by just activating 1 card. It's really good, and a lot of decks do run it, but they run it at 1. So I feel like limiting it to 1
might not change the landscape at all, and it might even prevent it from being abused.
Yeah. So I feel like limiting it to 1 would be perfect. Some people want to think that it should be banned, which I think is just absolutely ridiculous. There's no reason for it to be banned. It doesn't do that much. It does something, but it doesn't do too much. So limiting it to 1, I feel, is the perfect number.
Yeah, it's like the whole Amada Watto argument where people are talking about banning it.
That's ridiculous, too. It's absurd. It's absurd. Decks like Pendulum Magicians cannot run in Mono Watto. Because the reason the deck goes off with such crazy combos, a lot of it is through monster effects, and you can't, with a Mono Watto on the field, you're not going to be able to do anything.
You yourself, you're basically,
yeah, you're stopping. You're interrupting your own plays. Scapegoats. I don't feel that it should even be touched. I don't think. I feel like if you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh on a competitive level, and you're not sighting in Twin Twisters, or if you don't have anything in your deck to stop the back row before handing it over to your opponent, I feel like that's your own fault. Like, if you're allowing people to have a back row on your turn, that's your fault. Because things like Pendulum Magicians, one of the main monsters you usually want to have on the field is Tornado Dragon.
I guess I kind of agree to the argument that, in general, though, 3 might be 1 too many. It just, because it's really good. You get so much for 1 card that if you have it 3 times over, if you're gonna Twin Twister, how many Twin Twisters are you running? How many back row disruption are you gonna have in your deck for you to be able to combat 4 of them? I mean 3 of them. Sorry, 3 of them.
That's true, and he does get you Borload, Saruja,
so maybe a semi or a limited would probably be ideal.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 might be a little too much.
Yeah.
So maybe limited.
Semi-limited, I could agree to that. Semi-limited. Fairy Tale Snow. Limiting Fairy Tale Snow or outright banning it. Then the problem is the 60 card decks that everybody's running now. If it's in your graveyard, you banish 14 cards from your graveyard, and now you have 2 rank 4s and 2 level 4s. And rank 4s right now are like I feel like they're the best toolbox in the game. rank 4 Xyz monsters have some of the best effects. Tornado Dragon, Abyss Dweller, um, Bakuska. Well, he's all right. Bakuska's, but he's good if you need him. If you're and 60 cards abuses Fairy Tale Snow, and I feel like that's the reason that a lot of people are complaining about Fairy Tale Snow and feel that it should be limited. Another card that might get hit, or that should get hit, I should say, is Card of Demise. Card of Demise is basically a +2. It lets you draw 3 cards. It does have its limits, but I don't feel that there's any card that should be giving you 3, that should allow you to draw 3 cards. I feel like that's just inherently. In Yu-Gi-Oh, I feel like that's just inherently too much.
Well, Card of Demise has a little bit of a cost, so I don't know if banning it would be just, outright the right call, because it does have a cost to it, so it's not a full-on just pot of greed. So I think banning it is a bit of an overreaction.
But I definitely think limiting it would be good, because if you open that if you open that first turn, you drop everything else down onto the board, and then you activate Card of Demise, you just +3. I feel like 3 is too much for that card.
Yeah, there is a strategy to it. So maybe limiting semi. I would say semi. I like semi, just because it limits your draw ratio, but it doesn't make it to where you're never gonna see that card.
Yeah. Now, things that probably should be taken off the list, I feel like Book of Moon should be bumped up to 3. I think it would change the game significantly enough at 3 to where more people are going to be running it, because I really don't see anybody running Book of Moon. But at 3, I feel like it would do a lot, and it would change the landscape of the game quite a bit, but in a good way, because it's gonna bait out people's negations a lot more, and it's gonna be a lot more strategy. Not gonna be reliant on setting up 4 or 5 negates, because you're gonna be worried about people just not only baiting out your negates, but actually getting Book of Moon. It'll be a real possibility at 3, rather than at 1, which nobody really does. Nobody really plays the card. It's kind of irrelevant at 1. I feel like at 3 it would become a lot more relevant, and I feel like it would add a lot more strategy to the game at 3.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I was gonna say it's gonna add a lot of strategy, because other decks that aren't competitive, or anywhere, or they're not even able to rogue or anything, they'll have something that brings strategy to them, that makes them, bring a top tier deck down to their level by having the chance to use 3. Because if you have a top tier deck, you probably don't want to disrupt what you have in it by adding 3 Book of Moons. But if you have something that isn't as, top tier or meta, and you add it to that deck, it's going to be able to give you that disruption to kind of even the playing field, making it more strategic. And that's basically what I think you were getting at.
Yeah.
The strategy, making it that, and that's why I think it would help out the game for the better.
Yeah. Another thing that I feel would have, especially for I think that would also put a check on things like Pendulum Magicians, is Max C back at 1. Putting Max C back at 1, I feel would put. Because, if I'm playing Pendulum Magicians, and I open up an Astrograph, I open up Double Iris, Oath, and, anything else, really, you drop Max C, I'm just going to probably just drop Oath Dragon or Astrograph, and I'll probably just pass return. I'm not going to go off into a fucking crazy, 50-card combo.
Yeah, we're just going to help you.
Yeah. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not going to give you that many cards in hand.
Right. And at 1, an earlier point we made is that you want to slow down decks, and that's what definitely Maxi at 1 would do. It would slow the deck down.
Yeah.
It wouldn't stop it completely, but it would slow it down. And in Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of like speed is essential.
Yeah. So I feel like that would also be a good curve on Pendulum Magicians, rather than banning Astrograph and banning Electromite or banning anything else. Just limit those two, and then bring back C-Max to 1.
I totally agree with that. That's like probably the best solution I read. I don't see too many people talking about that. Yeah, I think that's probably the best solution. Bringing Maxi back to 1 would alleviate a lot of things. A lot. It would change up the landscape in general. And Book of Moon at 3. That, changes up Yu-Gi-Oh
Yeah.
a lot.
And the thing about Max C is like around the shop, like everybody was surprised when Max C got hit. Like nobody was expecting Max C to get banned.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it allows you sometimes to draw, an enormous amount of cards from your deck.
But it's very dependent on what your opponent does.
Yeah, if your opponent's not, special summoning 15 times per turn, you're not going to get your 15 cards.
Yeah.
So it interrupts your plays. Like, they set up one interruption, you drop Max C, they're going to stop.
Yeah.
They're not going to keep special summoning and giving you that many cards in hand.
I totally agree with that. So that's it from us. Thank you guys for watching. If you're new around here, please do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. If you liked the video, hit a like. That really helps us out because we're not sponsored by anybody. And in order for us to keep bringing you content, and we try to bring it out as best quality as we possibly can, but what really helps us to keep bringing you content and to bring at the level, and if not higher, is by you hitting that subscribe button. Because like, we're not sponsored or supported by anybody. We do it strictly because we care about this and because we want to keep in touch with you guys. So please do us a favor and just hit a like, drop a comment down below, share it with anybody you can, share it in any other, because we're not a big channel by any means yet. So
Yeah.
if you guys could just give us out, help us out like that a little bit, we'd really appreciate it.
Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, at Gamerz Klubb. That would also help us out a lot.
GamerzClubb.com, check it out. Until next time, this is Mick of Gamers Club. See you guys till the next one.